Listen to me carefully. If there's one piece of advice that will change your life forever, it's this. Be delusional. Be absolutely, completely, ridiculously delusional about your success. Why would you not go for it? Why would you not take a chance? At one point in time, you gotta take a chance on you. There's a certain delusional quality that all successful people have to have. You have to believe that something different can happen. You have to believe that you can be the one. You have to believe it before you see it. I don't care what your bank account says right now. I don't care what your circumstances look like. I don't care how many people told you no. I don't care how many times you failed before. You got to be delusional about where you're going. You got to see yourself already there even when you're nowhere close. Most people think delusion is a bad thing. They think being delusional means you're out of touch with reality. But let me tell you something about reality. Reality is what you accept. Reality is what you settle for. Reality is what happens when you stop dreaming big enough to change your circumstances. Every single person who ever achieved anything worth talking about was called delusional first. They said Michael Jordan was too short. They said Oprah would never make it in television. They said Steve Jobs was crazy for thinking we'd all want computers. They were all delusional enough to believe in something that didn't exist yet. You know what's crazy? People will tell you to be realistic while they're living lives they hate. They'll tell you to lower your expectations while they're stuck in jobs that drain their soul. They'll tell you to have a backup plan while they're living their backup plan and miserable about it. Stop taking advice from people who have what you don't want. Stop asking broke people how to make money. Stop asking people who gave up on their dreams how to achieve yours. Stop listening to people who chose safety over success telling you what's possible. Here's what I learned about success. It's 95% mindset and 5% strategy. Most people got it backwards. They spend all day looking for the perfect plan while their mind is programmed for failure. They know every reason why something won't work, but they never trained their brain to find reasons why it will. Your mind is the most powerful weapon you got. It's more powerful than any computer, any technology, any tool ever created. But most people use it against themselves. They program it with doubt. They feed it fear. They train it to see problems instead of possibilities. But not you. You're different. You're going to be delusional about your future. You're going to see yourself winning before the game even starts. You're going to feel like a champion before you win your first trophy. You're going to act like a millionaire before you make your first dollar. And people are going to laugh at you. People are going to call you crazy. People are going to tell you to come back to reality. Good. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them stay where they are while you go where they're afraid to go. You know why they laugh? Because they gave up on themselves. You know why they doubt? Because they stopped believing in their own potential. You know why they call you crazy? Because your dreams remind them of everything they were too scared to try. When I had nothing, I already knew I was driving Ferraris and living in mansions. People made fun of me. They said I was living in a fantasy. But I kept seeing it. I kept believing it. I kept acting like it was already mine. And you know what happened? It became real. That's the power of delusion. That's the magic of believing before you achieve. That's how you turn your dreams into your reality. You gotta be crazy enough to see it before it exists. You gotta be delusional enough to believe it before it happens. I'm telling you right now, success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. You attract what you are, not what you want. So if you want to be successful, you gotta start being successful in your mind first. Every morning when you wake up, I want you to see yourself already living your dream life. Don't just think about it. Feel it. Taste it. Make it so real in your mind that your body thinks it's already happening. Your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what you're imagining vividly enough. When you're broke, see yourself wealthy. When you're struggling, see yourself thriving. When you're doubted, See yourself proving everyone wrong. This isn't wishful thinking. This is mental programming. This is how you rewire your subconscious mind for success. You know what happens when you visualize success consistently? Your behavior starts changing. You start making different decisions. You start taking different actions. You start walking different, talking different, carrying yourself different. You become the person who deserves the success you're imagining. But here's what's going to happen. As soon as you start acting like you're destined for greatness, people are going to try to bring you back down. They're going to remind you where you came from. They're going to point out your failures. They're going to tell you who you really are. Don't listen to them. The person you used to be has nothing to do with the person you're becoming. Your past doesn't determine your future unless you let it. Your failures don't define your potential unless you accept that they do. Your circumstances don't control your destiny unless you give them that power. I need you to understand something. The biggest risk in life isn't trying and failing. The biggest risk is not trying at all. The biggest risk is playing it safe while your dreams die inside you. The biggest risk is living so small that when you die, people can't tell the difference. You think failing is scary? Try living with regret. Try explaining to your 70-year-old self why you didn't go for what you wanted when you had the chance. Try looking in the mirror knowing you settled for less because you were afraid of what people might think. Here's a fact nobody wants to face. You're going to die anyway. That's not motivational. That's reality. Whether you chase your dreams or play it safe, whether you win or lose, whether you succeed or fail, you're going to die. The question is, what kind of story you're going to write with the time you have. So why not bet on yourself? Why not see how far you can go? Why not find out what you're really made of? Why not be so delusional about your potential that you shock yourself with what you achieve? Listen, I'm not telling you to be stupid. I'm not telling you to ignore reality completely. But I am telling you that reality is not permanent. Reality is not fixed. Reality is something you can change if you're willing to work for it and believe in it strong enough. The reality you're living right now is the result of the thoughts you've been thinking and the actions you've been taking. If you want a different reality, you need different thoughts and different actions. You need to be delusional enough to believe that change is not only possible but inevitable. Most people think they have to see it to believe it, but champions know you have to believe it to see it. You have to believe you can be great before greatness shows up. You have to believe you can win before anyone else does. You have to believe in your vision before it becomes visible. This isn't about ignoring your problems or pretending everything is perfect. This is about focusing on solutions instead of setbacks. This is about seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. This is about believing in your ability to overcome whatever life throws at you. You know what separates winners from losers? Winners are delusional about their ability to figure it out. Losers are realistic about all the reasons why it won't work. Winners see every setback as a setup for a comeback. Losers see every challenge as proof that they should quit. Be delusional about your capacity to learn. Be delusional about your ability to grow. Be delusional about your potential to become someone completely different than who you are today. Be delusional about your power to change your circumstances no matter how stuck you feel right now. Here's what I know about delusion. It's only delusional until it works. Once you achieve what everyone said was impossible, they don't call it delusion anymore. They call it vision. They call it determination. They call it brilliance. But it was delusion that got you there. When Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team, he was delusional enough to believe he could still be great. When Oprah was fired from her first television job, she was delusional enough to believe she belonged on television. When Steve Jobs got kicked out of Apple, he was delusional enough to believe he'd come back stronger. They were all called crazy. They were all told they weren't good enough. They were all given every reason to give up. But they were delusional enough to keep going when logic said stop. They were delusional enough to believe in themselves when nobody else would. Every morning when you wake up, choose delusion over doubt. Choose possibility over probability. Choose faith over fear. Choose to believe in yourself even when the evidence suggests otherwise. Choose to see yourself winning even when you're currently losing. And here's the most important part. Don't just be delusional about the destination. Be delusional about the journey. Be delusional about your ability to enjoy the process. Be delusional about your capacity to grow from every setback. Be delusional about finding lessons in every loss. Because here's what happens when you embrace delusion. You stop making excuses and start making moves. You stop waiting for permission and start taking action. You stop looking for guarantees and start creating certainty. You stop needing other people to believe in your dreams before you pursue them. You become unstoppable not because nothing can stop you, but because you refuse to stay stopped. You become unbreakable not because you never get hurt, but because you always heal stronger. You become undeniable not because you never face obstacles, but because you always find a way through them. Success leaves clues, and here's the biggest clue of all. Every person who ever achieved anything extraordinary was delusional enough to try when others wouldn't. They were delusional enough to continue when others quit. They were delusional enough to believe when others doubted. They understood something that most people never figure out. Your thoughts become things. Your beliefs become behaviors. Your vision becomes your reality. But only if you're delusional enough to hold on to them when the whole world tells you to let go. So be delusional about your work ethic. Be delusional about your dedication. Be delusional about your willingness to do whatever it takes, for however long it takes. Be delusional about your ability to outwork, out-hustle, and outbelieve everyone who doubts you. Be delusional about your timeline. Most people underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years and overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year. Be delusional enough to think bigger and longer. Be delusional enough to play a game that most people don't even know exists. Be delusional about your impact. Be delusional about your ability to change not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. Be delusional about your potential to leave a legacy that outlasts your lifetime. Be delusional about your power to inspire others to believe in themselves. Because that's what happens when you embrace delusion. You don't just change your own life. You give other people permission to change theirs. You don't just achieve your own dreams. You show others that their dreams are possible too. You don't just become successful. You become proof that success is available to anyone willing to be delusional enough to go for it. And when you finally achieve what everyone said was impossible, when you're living the life everyone said was unrealistic, when you've become the person everyone said you couldn't be, remember this moment. Remember when you decided to be delusional. Remember when you chose to believe in yourself when nobody else would, because that's when your real life began. That's when you stopped being a victim of circumstances and started being the architect of your destiny. That's when you stopped accepting what life gave you and started demanding what you deserved. You know what's really crazy? The same people who call you delusional today will call you lucky tomorrow. The same people who tell you it's impossible today will ask you how you did it tomorrow. The same people who doubt you today will want to be around you tomorrow. But don't do it for them. Do it for you. Do it for the person you know you can become. Do it for the life you know you deserve. Do it for the dreams that keep you awake at night and wake you up in the morning. Do it because you owe it to yourself to find out what's possible when you refuse to accept what's probable. So be delusional. Be ridiculously, unapologetically, completely delusional about your success. Because in a world full of people who have given up on their dreams, being delusional about yours is the most realistic thing you can do. Your delusion today becomes your reality tomorrow. Your impossible becomes your inevitable. Your fantasy becomes your future. but only if you're delusional enough to believe it before you see it and work for it before you have it. The question isn't whether you should be delusional. The question is what kind of delusion you're going to choose, because either way, you're being delusional. Most people are delusional about their limitations. They convince themselves that success is for other people, that they don't have what it takes, that their circumstances are too difficult to overcome. That's delusion too, but it's delusion that keeps you stuck instead of delusion that sets you free. So choose your delusion wisely. Choose to be delusionally optimistic about your future. Choose to be delusionally confident in your abilities. Choose to be delusionally persistent in your pursuit of greatness. Because the only difference between a dreamer and an achiever is action. Dreams become goals when you write them down. Goals become plans when you break them down. Plans become reality when you act on them. But it all starts with being delusional enough to dream in the first place. Stop asking for permission to dream big. Stop waiting for someone to tell you it's possible. Stop looking for proof that you can succeed before you start trying. Be delusional enough to start before you're ready. Be delusional enough to believe before you see. Be delusional enough to act like success is inevitable, even when it feels impossible. Because when you're truly delusional about your success, failure stops being an option. Giving up stops being a consideration. Settling stops being acceptable. You become someone who finds a way or makes one. You become someone who sees solutions where others see problems. You become someone who creates opportunities where others see obstacles. That's the power of delusion. That's the magic of believing in something before it exists. That's how ordinary people achieve extraordinary things. They're delusional enough to try when others won't. They're delusional enough to continue when others quit. They're delusional enough to believe when others doubt. Your dreams are not too big. You're just thinking too small about your capacity to achieve them. Your goals are not unrealistic. You're just being unrealistic about your ability to reach them. Your vision is not impossible. You're just not being impossible to stop. Be delusional. Be completely, totally, absolutely delusional about your success. Because in a world that will try to convince you to settle, being delusional about your dreams is the most rational thing you can do. It's your delusion today that becomes your legacy tomorrow. And 20 years from now, when you're living the life that everyone said was impossible, when you've achieved everything that everyone said was unrealistic, when you've become everything that everyone said you couldn't be, you'll look back on this moment and realize something. You weren't delusional at all. You were just early.